Tomorrow, Wednesday, July the 29th, we'll see the umbrella body of the Nigerian Lawyers, Nigeria Bar Association, elects a new president and an executive body to begin the task of defining a new path to self-actualization or relevance. For a conversation on this, we are now being joined from Arise Abuja studio by Daniel Bwala, a lawyer himself. He'll be talking about the circumstances surrounding these elections in terms of candidates and their manifestos, connection to current issues affecting the association, the senior advocates of Nigeria versus the young Turks dichotomy at the heart of the contest, the rule of law and governance, as well as post-election adjudication, among other things. Welcome to the program, Daniel Bwala. I just want you to break it down for us. 3 candidates, Lumide, Jibadi Adeshino, manifestos, their strong points, what they bring to the party, without bias, which I know is quite difficult, because at this point in time, everybody would have picked who their candidate is. Thank you. Without bias.
Right.
Good morning, Daniel Bwala.
Good morning.
Well, thank you, Dr. Abati. I know that as a lawyer, when you give your own analysis, especially in an election period like that, even when you give an unbiased perspective, you must conclude by giving in your honest opinion who do you think is best, because this is not a profession that I do not belong to. It's a profession that I belong to, and I also have a number of issues that I am hoping the bar will be able to address, and so I would always want to look at the candidate that I think is best suited. But to start right off the cuff, every of the candidates that is vying for the post is qualified. That is the difference between the legal practice and the politics that you see outside of the legal profession, where people who are not eligible or people who are not qualified are vying for posts. In NBA, everyone that is vying for the post is qualified. However, it is only one person that will lead the bar. Therefore, you have to then narrow it down and say who amongst these qualified persons is best suited for the job. Now, a lot of issues, let me say one of the major issues that has generated a talking point leading to this election is the issue of the senior advocate versus the young Turk, as you call it. And I think it's a spin by those who want to take advantage of the numerous number, of non-senior advocates. They are more in number than the senior advocates. So you feel if you can spin and then change the narrative, you might probably prejudice their biases and get them to vote for you. But every lawyer who is called to the Nigerian bar knows it's not about that. You can do that in the courtroom, where the senior advocate is exercising his right to call his case out of turn and some of the privileges that is accorded to him by that conferment. But when it comes to the politics of the bar, the senior advocate or non-senior advocate is a non-issue. The issue before us in this 2020 is the post-COVID-19 legal practice. Now, last year, I was in our General Council of the Bar Conference in England. And one of the major issues that was a subject of conversation at the time was post-Brexit legal practice, post-Brexit legal market. The legal profession always adapts to changes whenever there is a change or something just comes up. And so the courts have given their decisions that virtual court proceedings is not permissible and in some cases mandatory. Various courts of the land have given what they call practice direction that has taken into account these COVID-19 realities. And so the challenge that is a legal practitioner in Nigeria is confronted by is, one, does he have the infrastructure to cope with the new normal? Does he have, for example, mobile devices? Does he have access to the internet? Does he have a very good environment to be able to argue his case now that he can argue that in his law chambers or in his private office? And if he cannot, what is the bar going to do going forward to make it a simplicity or to make it a reality that legal practitioners will be able to survive in that? Another issue that the bar is confronted by is, for example, the welfare of lawyers. It is no doubt that the lawyers in Nigeria today are less paid than even the doctors. There are, in some cases, less paid than even people who work in business centers. And there is a conversation around whether the bar will be bold enough to confront the reality and then begin to talk about legislation that will give room for minimum wage for legal practitioners. And where law chambers is unable to meet with that, then you promote the merger of law firms. Because these are 21st century realities. And it is even more realistic now that we have post-COVID-19 where there is a downsizing everywhere. Another challenge that the legal profession is facing is the discipline of legal practitioners. This is a regulated bar. It is a regulated profession. It is not like in other profession where you will do as you wish. Are we able to raise the highest standards of practice among ourselves so we can command respect? I was not comfortable in the past 4 years when lawyers are the ones that are subject to prosecution rather than litigants, and then lawyers will come to defend them. Lawyers now are being harassed every now and then by law enforcement agents of the government. Who is that leader that will be able to address this issue so that the respect and honor of the bar? Whenever I arrive in London Heathrow, all I need to say to the border agent is, I'm a barrister of the Lincoln's Inn, or I'm a legal practitioner, or I'm a notary public. They summarize any of the background checks they need to do to let you go in because of the honor and the dignity of that office. Because they know before you will be called as a lawyer, you must be adjudged as fit and proper. Now, amongst these candidates, there are many other issues, but let me just narrow it. Amongst these candidates, who is better positioned, who is better suited in terms of creativity, in terms of character, in terms of heart, and then looking at the history and antecedents of the lawyer, and then to say, this person, I believe, will be able to pick up this challenge and push the bar forward. The reason is because whenever you are elected in our Nigerian bar, you only have 2 years. It is not like in the conventional one where you have 4 years to learn the job and then to move. Here, you are not coming to learn the job. You are coming to hit the ground running. You are coming with creative mind. And I look at the three candidates, quite frankly, I come to the conclusion that Dele Adesina, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, is somebody I've observed for more than 12 years. And 12 years is enough a period for somebody who is called to bar to become a judge, to become a senior advocate, to become Attorney General, to become almost about everything. And I observed his consistency with the bar. He has been consistent. In fact, there was this human rights program that was held, and he came and gave a large chunk of money in promoting the right of people. Now, apart from the training of young lawyers, he attends MBA program. He raised this issue of the training of lawyers, mentorship. Because the Nigerian lawyer, after he's called to bar, is thrown to chambers. And sometimes there is no conscious effort to build that lawyer. In England, when you are admitted to practice, you have to keep practicing under supervision before you can have what they call license to practice without supervision. So all of these issues confronting us, I believe Dele Adesina he is better suited, in my view, to pilot the affairs of MBA going forward so we can meet with these post-COVID-19 realities.
Well, you say you are supporting Dele Adesina SAN, but what do you think of the issue of zoning, which has also generated some concerns, particularly in the Southwest, where we have two candidates, Ajibade SAN and Adesina SAN. Do you think the fact that the zone is presenting two candidates could be a disadvantage one way or the other? And zoning generally, with regard to NBA presidential elections, do you think it's a good idea?
Well, usually, because I have also been involved, I remember about 10 years ago, I was a secretary of the presidential ambition of Chief Jokari Gazama, Senior Advocate, and we travel around the country. And we try to see, because in our practice, we have what we call the zoning, as you've rightly said. And once it is zoned to a region, because the bar tries to minimize the idea of candidates going to spend money, traveling all over the place, risk their lives, create tension. So what they do, our tradition, what we do is we try to reach consensus. So for example, if it is zoned to the north, there is what we call Arewa's Lawyers Forum. That will then, the elders of the Arewa Lawyers Forum will begin the engagement of the various candidates interested with a view to arrive at one. So that once you arrive at that one person, all you need to do is to present it to the rest of the body of the bar. And then the election will be seamless, without stress, without rancor. Now, in a situation where, for example, it is zoned to a particular place, and maybe the extraction, the caucus of that place, like in this case, the Egbe Amofin, may have sat and then arrive at the conclusion that, okay, Dele Adesina is the person we have endorsed. But a candidate feels, well, it is my right to contest. Without prejudice to your decision, I still want to go out to contest. There are people who think that it is going to affect the chances of the endorsed candidate. But it is not so in our practice, and I've observed that over the years. what will happen is that the rest of the bar caucus, who always come when there is need and ask for favor, will make a conscious decision to ensure that that person is starved of votes and that the endorsed candidate gets the blessing, so that when it comes to the turn of that extraction or that zone, the other zones are going to actively be involved in making that a reality. So in a nutshell, although from the Southwest you have two candidates coming out, and people will think as if it will affect Daily Additional Senior Advocate, it will not. Because, for example, the Arewa Lawyers Forum have adopted Daily Additional as their candidate, and they have a wide chunk of legal practitioners. And then when you go to the Eastern Bar, they did not come to a total conclusion. So you have local branches, a majority of which are supporting Daily Additional Senior Advocate of Nigeria. And of course, you must know that the Yoruba people by tradition respect elders and respect order and respect consensus. And where you do not agree to that consensus, generally, they will rally their people to ensure that the respect and the honor given to that body that the consensus candidate wins. So I do not think that is going to be a blockade to the success of Daily Addition as Senior Advocate of Nigeria.
Olumide Akpata has raised a concern about the likely fact that the election may be rigged. You must have seen that letter that he released indicating that he got a company to do an integrity test of the portal, the electronic portal for the election. What do you think of that allegation? Because it will be most strange indeed for the election to end, and then what we hear is that lawyers cannot even organize a lawful election.
Yeah, you know, I have had the privilege of running for a political post outside of law, the legal profession, so I know what it entails. Oftentimes, and I'm not saying in all cases, the candidate who thinks he's going to lose the election will begin to generate an issue even before the election. In other words, he wants to preempt just in case. And you recall that Donald Trump did that. He even, for the first time in America, started alleging rigging and trying to generate a very heated issue. And at the end of the day, when he won, then he started endorsing those things he felt were rigging mechanism. Now, I am not suggesting that that is the same case with Akpata, who is somebody I respect and is a very good lawyer and has over the years proven that he's a good lawyer. But I think that our profession is a very serious one. You don't raise allegation in isolation or in the air. You must be able to substantiate. And the way the discipline of practice is that if you're unable to substantiate an allegation you raise, it may be a minus, either in your integrity, going forward, or even on some of the things you want to achieve. So, for example, if he thinks that there is going to be rigging and he has cogent and compelling reason, let him raise it ahead of time. But let him not begin to express, in my view, what may sound like a defeative attitude, strategy, to begin to question the process even before the process. That was what PDP did in the election. They started questioning the judge, the lawyer, the building. They were even questioning fowls in the air, birds in the sea, fish in the sea. Everybody was a problem. But after the election, and they went through all the judicial process, and they lost the election, they accepted in good faith, and they are now playing the role of the opposition. I think that the bar, that's what it boils down to the point I was talking about, raising the standard. We must be different from the conventional politicians. We must be seen to be a profession that believes in honor, in dignity, and in respect. And if you honestly have a strong reason, and you have a compelling reason, they come up with it. But please don't destroy the process before the progress, just because you feel you are going to lose the election.
But we have seen very disturbing electoral process with the NBA in recent past elections. And Mr. Akpata is not the only one raising concerns of the credibility of the process. Several people within and outside the bar have raised the same questions. Do you think that the Electoral Committee, that's the EC, NBA, really can conduct a credible and fair elections? People have talked about the portal not being accessible to them, multiple registration, because you do know that the election transition into digital voting to eliminate some of these things, but they are recurring. Mr. Bwala, sorry, but you will respond to my question after this break. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Morning Show here on the Rise News. And we still have with us from our Abuja studios, Mr. Daniel Bwala, who is a lawyer, and we are discussing the upcoming Nigeria Bar Association elections, which will hold from midnight 29th till the 30th. Thank you so much for staying with us. Just to reiterate my questions for those who may have just joined the program, I was asking you about the credibility of the process and the concerns raised beyond one of the contestants in the election. They say, there are so many loopholes that can be manipulated to favor any candidate in this election. The portal is not working. There are multiple registration for some lawyers, and so on. So can the EC-NBA, the Electoral Committee of the Nigerian Bar Association, deliver this time around a credible election, one far away from the dirty one we saw in the last elections?
Well, let me start by saying that I know a little bit of technology. I do not think that the portal makes a determination who are voters for Ajibade or voters for Akpata or voters for Dele Adesina. If you log on the internet just accepts. I don't know if there is another recent technology that can then prompt into people's minds. But I would tell you that because election is not 100% correct, and even in America, election cannot be 100% correct, but it must be adjudged largely as credible. And I think that this is what we have been talking over the years, and we will never stop talking about that. So I will not sit here to tell you I am supporting or I will support any electoral outcome that is marred by irregularity or by fraud. No, not at all. That is not my discipline and that's not my character. But I am telling you the truth that, in my view, sometimes politicians raise this concern ahead of time when they feel they are not very confident that they are going to win the election. We must also factor that as we look at the integrity issue that was raised around it. And EFCC, I was told recently, have even started prosecuting people who do malpractice, even in the bar. So those who are going to influence the system against anybody should also take note that the law enforcement is watching. The Department of State Services and the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission will spring into action when the time comes or once that issue is identified. And EFCC and DSS, they have structures that can tell whether or not a process is manipulated through the use of electronic device. But let us not use that to poison the mind and the heart of the members of the bar. Let's have confidence in the process and in the people that are elected to run the process. And if you have any cogent reason against someone or against a process, you can then raise it. But don't kill the process even before the process takes place.
I want to ask you this. We talked about the dichotomy between the SANs and the Young Turks. Do you think that Olumide Akpata could stage, a surprise one, could pull a surprise one on all of us? Could he lead a revolution with the young lawyers? And I want you to assess Olumide Akpata as a person. What are his chances? And if possible, too, by the way of fairness and equity, assess Jibade's chances as a contender in this contest.
So the issue of the senior advocate versus the young Turks, to me, is not a valid argument because the person able to take advantage of that should be the non-senior advocate, because you have more non-senior. The non-senior advocates are in the tens of thousands. The senior advocates in Nigeria, I don't think they're up to 1,000. So if somebody who is a senior advocate or a group of senior advocates are saying, go and vote for senior advocate, it's all about the senior advocate, I don't think that argument would hold. But I think that some people take advantage of that because there is this, let me give you this perspective. Because the conferment of the honor of senior advocate is a privilege and not a right, sometimes A might have all the qualities and in addition will be in a better footing to be a senior advocate, but unfortunately B, who may be his junior, who may not have up to what he has, will become senior advocate and he is not. So over the years, there has been this agitation. And in fact, some people have even raised the idea of sons of judges, sons of senior advocates, getting the slot over and against and above people who have worked so hard in their lives. So there has been this bitterness brewing. And so it's easy for somebody to come in, if you want to take advantage of those, to say, okay, this is just like the way in the nation people say cabals. So when you say these cabals, the senior advocate, are up against us, you are likely to find some of these people that are already aggrieved by the process to then begin to say, okay, we will vote for you in the revolution. But let me tell you, lawyers are not like politicians. Every lawyer, every voter has the equal right before the court as the senior advocate and the non-senior advocate, the candidate. And a lawyer by discipline thinks like a spirit. And so you cannot use spin and rhetoric to persuade him. When the chips are down, he will look at issues. He will look at his problem. He will look at what is confronting him. Then he will look at the candidate and their antecedents. And then ask himself, who amongst them is likely going to pilot this thing, make life easier for me? So there is this dichotomy of senior advocate versus the young thugs. And I can tell you, if you create a day, we can talk that. And we will talk that till the cows will come home. In England, once you qualify to become a Queen's Counsel, and if that year 1,000 people qualify, 1,000 people will be conferred. But in Nigeria, it is narrowed down to what they call privilege. So it is always difficult for somebody to get, except if God favors you. And it is easy for people to spin that. A few years ago, there was another guy, a lawyer, who was not a senior advocate, and though on that part, he failed woefully. Because the profession is much more matured than rhetorics, is much more matured than spinning. Okay. And to me, if I am a non-senior advocate, like I told you and I will say again, Akpata is a lawyer I respect. He's a good lawyer I have also observed over the years. On a good day, he is qualified to become the president of the bar. The only downside is that he is now confronting somebody who has a maximum and comparative advantage over him, in my opinion.
Well, Daniel Bwala, one of the issues you raised earlier was about welfare. And everybody is talking about welfare. And young lawyers are particularly interested in welfare, particularly the poor remuneration regime that exists within the profession. I put this question the other day to Chijioke Okoli, SAN, who appeared on another program. And he was saying, well, you can't decrease salaries for young lawyers. Every chamber will have to look at its own books and how profitable it is to be able to take care of young lawyers. Now, is there a mechanism in place within the Nigerian Bar Association to legislate over this?
So, to the best of my knowledge at the moment, there is none, even though there is a procedure for regulation. But this is what for the past, I think in 2012 or 11, I even spoke with a member of the National Assembly then. I said, I am more than willing to give a proposal for a legislation for minimum salary wage. It is a difficult thing in the profession because some are in urban towns, some are in rural. And so when you come up with a minimum wage, it will affect that lawyer that is in a rural area that is unable to meet up. But as a counter argument, I have also made the argument that, look, that is why there is a provision for the merger of law firms. If I am unable to meet with the minimum wage for lawyers, then I should look for people that will come together and form a partnership of law firm, and then we'll be able to meet. It should never be an excuse where forever the bar will not address that, because it is becoming cancerous and it's becoming a problem. Now, let me tell you why I support Dele Adesina. He has a listening ear. So during his tenure to me, he must listen. He must listen to this cry of lawyers. And if he fails to listen to at least, let's have a conversation, then he has failed as the president of the bar. And I am telling you because I have a law firm and I have staff paying that I'm paying. And I can tell you with the greatest respect, I am not doing bad, even in comparison to some offices of senior advocate. You can do the background check. I can give you the details of lawyers who work on them. And it is tough. Sometimes I have to go out of the law firm to raise funds to be able to pay for them. But whenever I see them as we sit together on the table, I think of the same market I go to. They go to the same market. They have the same family. They are faced by the same realities. There is no supermarket that sells items exclusively for lawyers who are underpaid. And we cannot cheapen the practice of law because we do not want to look into that issue. So I support, and the welfare of lawyers, that is how I started. When I said it is about the welfare of the lawyers, it's about regulation that will bring about minimum wage for lawyers.
Thank you very much, Daniel Bwala. I'm sure that we'll have another opportunity to have another conversation after the election.